Welcome to episode 8 of the What Shara Made podcast. Welcome back if you're a returning viewer, and hello if you're a new viewer. We've got a few things to talk about today. I've got a couple of whips, a couple of finished objects, and I'm going to draw the prize for the winner for the prize of the giveaway for the year-long stash busting craft along that I'm holding in the Ravelry group. And you can find a link to the Ravelry group in the down bar underneath this video. I may as well start with my whips. I've got a couple on the go. You might remember from an earlier episode my Lacy baseball tee. And I've done a little bit on it, although I've got to say it's a pretty boring whip because nothing much is happening just yet. So, that's what I've got so far. I'm in the middle of the waist shaping, and I think the last time I showed you I was probably about up to there, but prior to that I'd been up to about here and then realised it was going to be 5 miles too big and I had to undo it and start all over again. So I think this might be my 3rd or 4th attempt at this top. It's going well, but it's a little bit boring at this stage because it's just a whole lot of knitting and not much else. So I haven't been getting a whole lot of that done, but I'm still plugging away at it. And that is using Knit Picks Cotton yarn, which is a cotton linen blend in the colour Harbour, and it's really nice, although it does have some sort of prickly, spiky bits in it, which I think are bits of slightly unprocessed linen, and they're kind of prickly, and I think if you're going to be wearing this against bare skin, which I probably will be, it could be a bit irritating. So I've been picking them out as I come across them in the yarn, which sort of slows down the knitting a bit because certain sections have got lots and lots of these bits of plant matter in it, but it's coming up a nice fabric. It's actually a little more green. It's looking pretty greyish blue there, but it's a lot more green in real life. But I must apologise for the lighting. There's nothing I can do about it, but I'll apologise anyway. The weather here today, here's my weekly weather report. The weather here today is really rainy. It hasn't stopped raining all day long. I just went out and checked our rain gauge, and since about 7 AM this morning we've had 36 mils of rain. I don't know if you're familiar with how rain is measured, but that's a considerable amount to get in one day. It's more than our monthly average for February for the entire month, and we've had that in one day, so it's pretty rainy out there, but I'm not complaining. Although it does make the lighting a little bit hard for filming. In the room where I normally film, it was just, even with all the lights I could find turned on, it was still way too dark. It was just, you would have just seen shadows moving around. So I'm filming in front of a window, hoping for the best. You may even be able to hear the rain in the background. It's really beautiful. It's only about 13 degrees Celsius, so that's quite cool for summer in Australia. And I'm really pleased with that cool weather because it's been really hot and muggy and quite revolting for maybe the past week. So quite pleased with this. I sat out on the veranda this morning while it was bucketing down and did some knitting and listened to a podcast, and just enjoyed the rain, while Rosie sat next to me giving me dirty looks because she does not like the rain. Oh well. My next whip is a sample for my local yarn store, and it's pretty interesting so far. It's the Arbutus cowl by Jane Richmond from her pattern book called Island, as in a landmass in water, not the country Ireland. And you can sort of see, I'm just trying to untangle it. You're not really going to get much of a view or an idea about what it is. It actually goes this way, that's the top, and it's knit down. I don't have the pattern on me right now, so I can't really show you a picture of it, but I will link to it in the show notes so that you can see what the finished item looks like on the Ravelry page for the pattern, because it's really quite interesting. The cowl starts off with a smallish section at the top, and then you cast off part of that and cast on more stitches so that it has a longer loop for the next one. Then you cast off some of those stitches and cast on more stitches below. So it's got 3 tiered rings that are joined at the back. Hopefully that makes some sense. And the yarn that I'm using for it is really yummy. Really love knitting with this yarn. The colour's not quite showing up. It's a bit more like the colour of my hair, actually. If I wore this, it would just get hidden in my hair. And it's a Zilana Cowrie yarn, and it's a blend of merino wool, silk and possum. And possum fibre is super extra special fibre to work with. I don't know if you've ever worked with it, but it's super soft and it's extra warm because it's got a hollow core in the actual fibre, and that traps warm air, and it's, for the weight of the yarn, it's something extraordinary, like 10 times warmer than the same weight of wool. I don't know if I'm really explaining that very well, but anyway, it's really warm and it's really light and it's really soft. And some people get a bit worried about how they get the fibre from the possums. And I don't know if you know this, but the type of possum I'm talking about is a brush-tail possum, and they're native to Australia, but some stupid humans decided to take them to New Zealand as well, where they're a feral animal, and they cause great destruction to the New Zealand environment and wildlife. And so they are culled in New Zealand, not in Australia. They're a protected species here, because they don't cause anywhere near as much trouble because they're meant to be here. But in New Zealand they're culled, and they make a bit of an industry out of it. Otherwise the possums would just go into landfill. I'm not really sure what they do with them otherwise. Sorry, this is getting a bit gruesome, but they have started using parts of the possums, such as the fibre of their fur, to turn into yarn, and it's a really superior yarn and it's really nice to wear, but that's how they get it. And so the possums do die. It's not like they don't give the possums a haircut, as my 8-year-old niece suggested. I didn't tell her that the hair comes from dead possums, but unfortunately, because of silly humans who introduce them to an environment where they don't belong, they're a real hazard. For example, the population of New Zealand is around, human population is around 4 million, and the brush-tail possum population is around 77 million. So you can see that they're an issue. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Alright, on to much happier whips. You may remember my little sparkly rainbow socks from the last episode. And I've done a little more on them so you can get a bit of a better idea of what they're going to look like. There you go. So that's what the pattern is going to look like when it's done. Really loving working with this. The colours really aren't showing up properly. This section here is quite a vibrant orange, but the rest of it's reasonably accurate, and it's very sparkly and it's really soft. And I don't know how easy it's going to be to tell what I'm doing here, but I'm attempting to do a garter stitch fish lips kiss heel. And my hope is that with the garter stitch, it will add a bit more body to the heel and it might be a bit more long wearing. I don't know if it's going to work, and it did take me a little while to figure it out because the particular short row wrap and turn sequence that you use in the fish lips kiss heel did not want to work in all garter stitch, so I had to change a few things, but it seems to be working now. I'll let you know how it goes. And I'm really pleased with those. I love it. The pattern's just from my head, obviously with the slightly modified fish lips kiss heel, and the yarn is Lang Millicalori Socks and Lace Luxe, and I'm loving it. And that's actually all my whips. Now I'm going to move on to finished objects. You may notice that I'm wearing one of them. Now, this is actually an old finished object. It's the Confectionary pullover by Corinna Ferguson, and it was in the Knit Scene Fall 2013 issue, and I really love it. When I first, you can sort of see the shaping there, the pattern, it's gorgeous. When I first made this jumper, I was making it to wear to the Bendigo Sheep and Wool show, I think in 2013 or maybe it was 2014, I don't know. And every year I try and make myself a new jumper or sweater to wear to the Sheep and Wool show, and every year I leave it to the absolute last minute to try and make a new sweater for myself to wear. I don't know why, because I plan it really far in advance so that I'll have heaps of time to do it, and somehow, I don't know why this happens, but it happens every year. I end up trying to knit myself a sweater in the last 8 days before the show. I'm an idiot. Anyway, this one, I was knitting the last sleeve on my way to the show. So that's how, in the car on the way to the show, obviously I wasn't driving, that's how late I left it to finish it. But I got it finished and I wore it and I loved it. And I seriously lived in this jumper for the next 3 months. I almost wore it every single day. I washed it in between, but I almost wore it every single day. And last winter, I almost wore it every single day. I just love it. It's my absolute favourite. It fits really well. It looks great. Because it's just one colour, you can sort of force it to go with anything. And I do. When I was making it, it's actually it's not an intuitive or relaxing or fun knit, but the results are awesome. There is a bit of an issue with the pattern where when I was first making it, I thought it was maybe an error in the pattern. Then I looked at everyone else's on Ravelry and they'd all run into the exact same issue, and some people thought it was fine and other people just stopped knitting it when they got to that point, and other people like me changed it so that it wasn't unusual. I don't think it is an error. But it's a very strange design element that didn't make any sense to me. You can see these things here, and they line up, sort of, they're meant to line up straight. The lines go down like that, in a symmetrical, even way. But the way that the pattern's written is that they were just off, like just a little bit off, not so that they were so far off that they'd gotten back into line. They were just a bit off. They weren't symmetrical in any way whatsoever. And the waist shaping, instead of, you know, going like that, was like, if you'd imagine a waist shaping like that, lower down obviously, it was like that. So it was like off centre. Whether you're going to have the waist shaping right on their side edges or you're going to have the waist shaping a little bit in, it needs to be symmetrical, unless there's some incredibly specific design reason why they're not symmetrical. Waist shaping needs to be symmetrical, because for the most part, most people's waists are reasonably symmetrical. And I couldn't figure out why you wouldn't have these lines lining up in a symmetrical, sensical way, and I couldn't figure out why you would have the waist shaping like they were sort of like on these two lines rather. Anyway, it didn't make any sense to me in a design sense, and I knew it would have really annoyed me. And I could see from other people's pictures that when they hadn't done the symmetrical waist shaping, they just followed the pattern as it was written. The jumpers were wonky and they sat strangely in an odd, non-symmetrical, crooked way, and that would have driven me mental. So I changed the pattern, and it wasn't hard at all to shift all these things just about, I don't know, it was like 10 stitches to one way, and then everything was fine. And I just couldn't figure out why the designer would not have done that. I don't know, and I was worried once I'd shifted everything and changed it all, that later on I was going to run into an issue where there was a big reason for that strangeness, but there wasn't, and so that made even less sense. I don't know why. Anyway, I did change it, but I didn't realise that everything was all skew-if until I was several rows into that shift. And then I had to unpick a whole lot, and it was lace and cables in every single row, like there's no rest rows. And unpicking that when you've given yourself a ridiculous deadline was a bit of a nightmare. And at one stage I did actually throw it on the floor and just stomp off. I was really cross with it. But I'm so glad that I persisted with it and finished, because it's the thing that I've made that I've worn the most. It's my favourite. And I actually started another one last winter, a black one, and I'm probably maybe about that far into it. It's top down construction. I'm about that far into it, and that's as far as I got, and then I stopped. Because like I said, it's not a relaxing knit, it's not intuitive, you can't look at the work and read what should be happening. You just have to look at the chart the entire time you're knitting, and you need to be in the right frame of mind to do that, and be in the right situation as well. You can't do it at knit night or while you're trying to watch TV or a podcast or chat to anyone. You sort of need to do it in complete silence by yourself. Well, I did anyway. I can't help but think that the designer is a bit of a knitting designer genius, though, because I do not know how she came up with this particular lace sequence in the yoke, because it's awesome and it's so complicated. She's amazing. Maybe she put all her energy into that, and then once she got down to the skew-if shaping, she was over it. I don't know, but I love it anyway. My next finished object is made out of well, it's sort of two finished objects in one. It's a spinning finished object and a knitting finished object. So what I've got here is the Beeswax hat by Amy van der Laar. It's really not showing up in its true glory because it's quite a spectacular pattern. I've been dying to make it ever since it was released, and I just didn't have a reason, and then I realised I didn't need a reason. I can just make a hat. And I got this fleece, you might be able to tell that I didn't bring it with me. One of the singles, it's a 2-ply handspun, and one of the singles was a beautiful mustard yellow, and the other was just an undyed white. And then I applied those two together to get that yarn. It's really not showing up as pretty as it is in real life. You get a reasonably good idea, and it's not showing up to the true colour either. Sorry about that. But anyway, this pattern is amazing. It's a really interesting, fun knit, and it's really intuitive, and you could see exactly what was meant to happen and what was going to happen. And it was actually a really quick knit as well. I did have to go down a couple of needle sizes because I wasn't getting gauge at all. It was going to be massive, but I'll try it on for you. You sort of get the idea. Okay. I really love it, and I actually, it's a bit of lumpy handspun right at front, of course. I actually can't wait to knit another one. I've got some other yarn in mind, that's stash yarn, that I really want to use to make it. I really like it. The actual design of the beeswax shapes is quite ingenious, and it's really fun to make. I loved it. This is what I was finishing off when I was sitting out in the veranda this morning with my cup of tea, listening to my podcast in the rain. I was obviously covered under the veranda. I wouldn't sit out in the rain and knit. That might not be very fun. But I did really enjoy doing that. I spun this yarn earlier in the week from 2 bits of fleece that I acquired on the weekend. Some corridor fibre, and when I was spinning the singles, it was really easy and nice to spin the actual fibre. It just wanted to be spun. It was really easy to do, but it was quite harsh and even maybe a bit too scratchy for me, and I really don't mind scratchy yarn at all, scratchy wool yarn, and I was a little bit concerned. I thought, what am I going to make out of this? It's going to be like, it was sort of coming out a bit like jute, not as hard, but the softness was about on par with some jute. I thought, what am I going to make with it? Because you always couldn't wear it against your skin, so I couldn't make a scarf or even mittens or anything out of it. And once I washed it, thank goodness, it came up really soft, and it's one of my favourite yarns that I've spun actually. And it's nice that it was just two solid colours, and I didn't have to worry about where colours were going to end up or anything like that. It just worked out really nicely. So I think I'll probably spin a bit more of that fleece. I've got a little bit of a, they sell it at my local yarn store, so I can get it easily. I've got another lot, some really gorgeous dusty pale green and an undyed sort of a grey that I'm going to do the same with this. Spin them as singles and then ply them together. They only come in 40-gram little chunks of fleece, so there's not a lot of each one, but it's obviously enough to make a hat or some gloves, and I've got quite a bit left over. It had 80 grams and I got 175 meters out of that, and it's roughly somewhere between a DK and a sports weight, so that was pretty good mileage from that smallish amount of fibre. So I'm really looking forward to spinning the other lot as well, but they are new acquisitions, so I can't add these to the year-long stash busting craft along. So that's that hat, and I really enjoyed it. So that's the Beeswax hat by Amy Vandeleur, and I can't wait to make another one. So lovely, really like it. It's really nice and soft and light and lovely. My next finished object is a spinning finished object, but it's only partially done. There's still more to go, but I had to finish this because it was hogging my bobbins, my spinning wheel, and I needed them to be empty so I could spin this yarn. So this is a teeny tiny little lot of very thick and thin yarn, and it's from, you may remember me talking about this in previous episodes, I had some white gum wool comb top, and I, pardon me, hand dyed it, and I was really struggling to spin it. It just kept breaking, and it's really, really slippery. I think because it's so gloriously soft, it's got nothing to sort of grip onto, so it just kept breaking. I would probably spin for maybe a minute or two, break, I'd have to rejoin, spin for another minute or two, it would break, and I'd have to rejoin. And I don't think I was trying to make a yarn or singles that were too fine, but they were obviously too fine for this yarn. I tried all sorts of things, easing the tension, increasing the tension, and everywhere in between, and going faster, going slower, trying to draft a thicker fibre, thicker singles. Nothing would work. And I tried all different types of drafting methods, and I was having very little success. And in the end, I sort of, I was a bit annoyed with it, and I couldn't do it anymore. So I took it off, and I did an Andean bracelet and applied it that way from my hand, because there wasn't a whole lot of it on the bobbin, because even though I'd been spinning it for days, I really hadn't gotten very far. So made this, it's about maybe 30 grams if I'm lucky, probably not quite that much. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, because at this stage this much here isn't really enough to make anything except maybe a baby hat. I've actually got the rest of it at the spinning wheel at the moment, and I'm trying again to spin it and trying to be a little more patient with it, and I hope I have a bit more success with the next lot, because the colours are just beautiful. And I think even though it's so thick and thin, it'll still knit up really nicely if I choose the right pattern for it. So that's it for finished objects. And you may remember me last week talking about how I just received a big shipment of bear sock yarn that I was going to dye. Well, I had a bit of a dyeing day yesterday, and I did some. Some of it I can't show you because it's presents for people and I want them to get a nice surprise when it arrives in the mail, and I know that they watch, so I might do a little mini film of it to show you what it looks like, because I've used some different dyeing techniques, and they've come up really really nice. I really like the way they've worked out. But the ones I can show you, let's talk about them. Last year I knit my mum some socks for her birthday, and that was the first time I'd ever made her socks, and I think the first time she's ever worn hand knit socks, and she really, really loved them and immediately requested 7 more pairs, and I was like, oh, maybe. Anyway, I knit her 1 more pair, and now she's got 2. She really likes them, and she said that this year for her birthday, which is in April, she would like some more hand knit socks, and she wants blue ones, and she said she would like some blue sparkly socks. So I'm like, yeah, I think I can do that. And I almost bought some commercial blue sparkly sock yarn, and then I remembered that I had heaps of bare sock yarn with stellina in it. I thought I should probably just dye some myself, and they'll be better. So this is the yarn that I've dyed up for Mum and her socks. It's actually coming up much, much more purple than it is in real life. It's a lot more greeny, bluey. That's getting slightly closer to its real colour. And I really like it. It's so nice and soft and squishy. And I showed Mum the yarn the other day, yesterday, and she gasped with joy. She really likes it. So that's good. That's a good start. She already likes it. So I'm looking forward to knitting that into some lovely socks for my mum. And you may remember an acquisition that I showed you last week, the Shopwall Fliegende Untertasse, which means flying saucer. That's the sock yarn that I got, called Flying Saucer. And it's dyed while it's in a cake, and when you knit it up, it has a really interesting effect on how the colours pull. And I thought yesterday while I was dyeing up some yarn that I might have a go at that too. So I wound some bare sock yarn into a cake, and then I dyed it. So obviously you can see I dunked half in the red and then a part in some pink with a little bit of purple, and then left some blank. And it doesn't go, I wonder if I can show you, it's not saturated all the way through, and I really tried to really massage it in there, but it just wouldn't go. So there is a possibility that if I knit 2 socks out of this, one sock's going to be pretty intense in the colour, and the other sock's going to be really light. So I'm not sure how this is going to work, but the red sort of worked a little better, but you can see it still didn't get saturated all the way in. But maybe there's other techniques I can try for this method, but I'm pretty excited to start playing around with that. I think it's going to look pretty interesting when it's knit up. Yeah, some of it spewed out the end. I think it's going to look really interesting when I knit it up. Pretty excited about using that actually. And I think that is actually it for all my whips, finished objects, spinning and dyeing. I do have one more finished object, but it's not with me. It's the Vera Bear using the pattern by Anita Wilshut, and you may remember me showing it to you as a whip last week. I was making a rainbow bear for my niece Olive's 8th birthday, which was 2 days ago, and I gave her the bear and she really loved it, and she named it Bowie. Rainbow, David Bowie, and combined the two, Bowie. Pretty good name, I think. And she carried it around with her the whole day. She really, really liked it, so that was good. I did take a little video of it to show you the finished object, and hopefully I'll be able to figure out how to insert that video right here. Hello, this is just a quick little segment to show you my finished rainbow Vera bear. I finished it, I think it only took me 2 days to finish it. It's not a lot of knitting, but it's a little bit of concentrating and counting, but it's 100% worth it. Look at this gorgeous little thing. Look at its little flat bottom, so it can sit down. It's so cute. And the ways that the arms turned out with the striping and its little feet and the legs. Look how cool those candy striped legs are, and its little stripy nose and the back of its head. Look at that. It's just so gorgeous, isn't it? So this is the Vera bear pattern from Anita Wilshire, which is available on Ravelry, and it is such a gorgeous pattern. I really am looking forward to knitting my next Vera bear. I'm going to give this to Olive this afternoon for her birthday. It's her birthday today, and she'll be 8 years old, and I think she's going to really love it. Well, I hope she does. Oh, it's so cute. Look at its little face. I love it. I love the way the yarn turned out. So that's Vera bear, all done and finished. One of my favourite FOs. See you later. So hopefully you've just watched a little short video of the finished Vera bear, and here I am back again, and I've got an announcement, and that is the winner for the January prize for the year-long stash busting craft along that's going on in the Ravelry group at the moment. So this is the prize for this month. It's some Knit Pro Zing double pointed needles in 2.25mm. I think that's a US size 1. I could be wrong. I think that's what it is. And in the FO thread, let me just bring up a random number generator. In the FO thread, the first 2 posts are mine, and then there was a non-FO post, and then there are 22, so from 4 to 22 are the eligible posts in that thread at present. And just a little reminder, I really hate saying this because I feel like a bit of a meanie, but it makes it really hard for me to draw a prize from that thread if there's chatter in that thread. So just to make it a bit easier for me, please, only post pictures of finished objects in that thread, just so it's easy for me to draw a random number with the random number generator, which I've got here. So from 4 to 22. So you see, I haven't pushed the button yet. Hopefully that will focus. And I'll push the button. And it's post number 9. So let's see who that is. Fingers crossed, everyone. Hope it's you. Okay, post number 9. Oh, everything in here is so gorgeous. I love all of them. Number 9. Ooh, it's Cowl Knits with her gorgeous torrent socks using fiberific yarn, and they are really beautiful. I wonder if I can show you a picture here. They're super gorgeous. Look at those absolutely stunning socks. Oh, so gorgeous. And that is, let me just go into your profile. I'm pretty sure I know who you are. That is Kylie, and she's from Melbourne. Oh, so you should have your needles in the post. I'll pop them in the post tomorrow. and you should have them sometime next week. So congratulations, Kylie, you're the January winner of the Knit Perusing double pointed needles. I don't know if you've used these before, Kylie, but they're really nice. Hopefully 2.25 is a good size for you. If you could just get in contact with me, send me a private message on Ravelry if I don't send you one first, and let me know your address. I'll pop them in the mail. So I think that's everything that I needed to cover. Keep putting your stash busting finished objects in that thread, and at the end of next month I'll be drawing another winner and there'll be another prize, and all posts, all finished object posts are eligible. So even if you only post one thing and you've already posted it and that's all you post, you'll still be eligible to win a prize for the rest of the year in that drawing. But the more finished objects you put in there, the more chances you've got of winning. So the more stash you use, the better. And I think that's it for me. It's just started to rain pretty heavily again, and I think I might go and sit out on the veranda and do a bit more knitting. I'm going to attempt to finish my doodler shawl, but I can't promise anything. Alright, thanks so much for joining me again this week, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.